The U.S. Justice Department is suing Adobe for deceiving practices, particularly with their subscriptions, as customer complaints have been mounting and mounting over the years. So my name is Maria Sparagas. I am the founder of Direct Payment. I work with thousands of 7- and 8-figure merchants, and I help them find effective and reliable payment processing. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about subscription practices and really focus on this case with Adobe. We're told very often in the industry as marketers, as business owners, that we should be following the big guys, the Amazons of the world and, the Adobes and so on and so forth. But keep in mind, these big players sometimes really push things a little bit too far and really try to test the waters. And if you follow them too closely, you might get in trouble as well. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about what Adobe did and why the U.S. Justice Department is suing them, and also a couple of things that you can do to keep your customers happy, ensure, you keep as many subscribers as possible so you can keep your residuals going month over month with your customers. And of course, do this all with keeping your customers happy and making sure that you're doing everything above board. Now, here's a summary of what Adobe did. And I'm sure, whether you're a consumer or business owner, or obviously we're both, you've probably seen this on a lot of websites. So they were offering an annual plan, but they were charging it monthly. So it always sounds like a great deal. You're like, hey, I'll save a couple of bucks and, I'll take an annual plan, but I'll pay it monthly. Everything sounds good until you sign up. And then when customers were about to cancel, they were charged these exorbitant cancellation fees, even more than the subscription fees incurred. So obviously that's very deceptive. If you're going to charge somebody more than what they would pay for by just keeping their subscription, that really doesn't pass the sniff test. So, Adobe was engaging in these practices and really getting people on the hook to stay on their subscription. Now, when the customers actually went through the process to try to cancel, they were redirected to a million different websites. They were given different pop-ups, asked very confusing questions. It was just a mess to try to get through. So a lot of customers resulted in calling in, hoping that they would, speak to somebody and be able to get better service and be able to cancel their subscription. Now, what happened there is that oftentimes customers were complaining that their calls were dropped, they were unable to get through, they were passed around to a lot of different departments. All of this so that Adobe can avoid canceling their subscription. So, back in 2012, Adobe was selling their software on a one price lifetime basis. So you'd pay, $100 or whatever, you'd get access to it forever. Obviously, as things changed, they realized they need a recurring business model. So they started offering annual subscriptions, monthly subscriptions, and so on and so forth. But in the last little while, a year or so, they've really been pushing the annual subscriptions because they know that obviously they want to keep people in their sphere longer so they can keep rebilling them and rebilling them. But they really did make it impossible for you to cancel. If you were a customer of Adobe, you may have experienced this. If you wanted to cancel any of their products, going through either a phone cancellation or an online cancellation made it impossible. And then if you were successful in canceling, you would actually get charged termination fee that sometimes was more than what the balance of your subscription would be, which makes absolutely no sense. And it's very unfair and very deceptive. So obviously, if you've been following the Adobe business model and trying to emulate, how they work with subscriptions, it's really a no-go. I mean, this is not a practice that we can do in this day and age. Consumers are a lot more educated. They have a lot more recourse. There's a lot more consumer protection agencies for online purchases and even small transactions that are now protecting consumers. So it's just a matter of time before you get caught and you have issues with your merchant accounts and obviously with your business. So if you are engaging in any type of business like this, now would be the time to stop and to make sure that you are offering a product of value and customers actually want to have a subscription with you. If you have a subscription product and you want to maximize your conversions and make sure that customers stay with you as long as possible, there are some tips and tricks that you can use to ensure the maximum gain and that people stay with you as long as possible. Now, there's a couple of things like, for example, in Adobe's playbook that you can use and modify slightly so you don't fall into the Adobe trap of deceiving your customers. So having, for example, an annual subscription, that's a great idea and you can charge it per month. Now, obviously, if you want somebody to be with you annually and they cancel 6 months later, there could be a small penalty. Now, the penalty might just be something that we charge you 30-day, or you have to give us a 30-day notice to cancel and so forth. And that's reasonable because obviously they've been saving money by taking the annual subscription. You don't want to give people an out that's that easy. So that can be just a reasonable way of doing it, is charging them one extra month in order to cancel because they took advantage of your yearly off. Another thing that you can do is you can offer a yearly plan with a one-time payment that renews every year. Obviously, if somebody buys a plan for 1 year, uses it for 6 months, doesn't use it for the 6 months after, it's very rare that they're going to want to cancel. But keep in mind, if you do offer a yearly plan and it renews every year, you need to get consent from the customer after the 1 year period to make sure that you can rebuild them for the second year. On a monthly basis, a subscription that's a monthly subscription, you don't need to get consent every month. You can just keep rebilling the customer every month. So long as the price stays the same, you don't have to advise them of anything, and they obviously have the right to cancel when they need. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I did do an episode about some FTC regulations, which I'm going to link down below. And the FTC has regulated that it's sometime in 2024, they're going to mandate online merchants to offer an online cancellation option. So gone are the days of people buying products and services online and then having to call you in to cancel and wait to speak to an agent and, be pitched a couple of other products and so on and so forth. Customers want a clear way to cancel. It's very obvious that, this is where the industry is moving. And, offering them a way to cancel online as they purchase your product is the way to go. There's several things that you can do to try to save your customers. You can have a funnel build. You can ask them questions. You can give them a discount offer. There's a ton of stuff that you can do to keep your customers once they go to your online form to cancel. You don't just have to let them submit a cancellation. You can, ask them a few questions and try to save them. But ultimately, if somebody wants to cancel, you have to give them the opportunity to cancel the same way they bought from you. So if you're an online business, they need an online cancellation form. Now, another thing that's very, very important is clear terms and conditions. Now, we all go through Apple updates and all that where there's, 14 pages of terms and conditions. Nobody reads. You're just scrolling down, you press agree, and you go. For an online business, whether you're selling a physical product or a digital product, it's important for your customers to know what they're buying, how much they're paying, and when they're going to be billed. So, obviously you need your terms and conditions page with all the legal stuff and all the logistics. But on your checkout page, you need to have a clear checkbox before the customer exits your cart that says, I agree to the terms and conditions. I understand I will be paying $97 for 30 days access to whatever program, or for 30 days supply of whatever program, and I will be rebilled, or I will be charged every 30 days thereafter for the same 1 month supply. Obviously you can clean up that wording, but those three things really have to be there, and the checkbox has to be unchecked. And the reason it has to be unchecked is because you can't assume that the customer accepts the terms and conditions. They actually have to check off that box to accept those terms. And when they do that, that's also proof for you that they've read the terms of the purchase, they know the pricing, and they know what they're going to be charged for. So it's a win-win for everybody, your customer and you. There's no surprises for them at the end of the month when they get their credit card statement, and you will save money, less complaints, less chargebacks. So it's a net win overall for everybody if customers are aware of what they're buying and how they're buying it and what frequency they're going to be billed. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to recontact your customer if you're billing them every 30 days. Now, the exception to that is if you change the pricing. So your best bet really is to keep pricing as consistent as possible. What that means is if you have a customer on the hook, let's say for $89 a month, try to keep them at $89 a month as much as possible. Changing the price point will just create more confusion, more customer complaints, more touch points with them and you for service and asking questions. And it really isn't worth all that headache. You could change your price plan for new customers coming into your sphere and keep your old legacy customers on the price point they were. It will save you a whole bunch of headaches for the couple of bucks that you might wait. Now, another thing that you can do to keep your customers excited about your product or your service and make sure that they're, engaging with you constantly is keep them engaged on social media. And, try to keep them engaged through various emails on how to use your product, how to make the most of your product and so forth. Give them some more information, some more tools and some things they can use to effectively use your product or service. So whatever it is you're selling, if you're selling content, then give them access to some free videos by email or send them to your Facebook page or Instagram page to see more content, more tips and tricks on how to effectively use your program. If you're selling a product, then you might want to give them some digital content to complement that product. So anything that you can do to give your customers more for their money will keep them engaged, will keep them happier, and will keep them with you longer. Now, I know a lot of, some of the older school marketers that, may have been schooled in the 10, 15 years ago era. There was a school of thought that the less you contact the customer, the more money you're going to make because the less likely they're going to cancel and so forth. So I think, that's kind of a dead practice at this point. Customers can cancel so easily, can charge back so easily, whereas even just 5 years ago, it was so difficult to cancel or to, charge back. You'd have to call your bank, explain, do all this stuff. Right now, in most online banking portals, there's a dispute a transaction little button next to every transaction on your credit card. And you just press that and you type out what the problem is and you're good to go. Your dispute is filed. So in this day and age, it being so easy to dispute a transaction, so easy to get your money back, you're really, your best bet is really to try to engage your customer, get them to use your product or service. And when they're not happy or they don't want to use it anymore, give them an easy way to cancel and move on. And trust me, you will have better word of mouth. You won't get complaints. You won't have legal issues or people after you because of, let's call them deceptive practices like the ones Adobe was practicing, unfortunately. Now, talking about subscription length and how long you want to keep somebody and so forth. Now, the Visa regulation on subscriptions is that you can rebill or keep somebody on a subscription without reaching out to them to have their consent if the subscription is less than 3 months. So if you're billing somebody quarterly, you don't necessarily have to keep in touch with them and tell them. But if you have annual subscriptions, as I mentioned, you do have to either email them or text them and get a reply saying, yes, I would like to continue this subscription. Now, one thing that you can do to limit, customer complaints or customer fatigue is try to limit your subscription period. It may defy some logic in the sense of don't we want to keep customers as long as possible to increase their lifetime value and really squeeze out every dollar? Yes, that is the case. But right now, there's a little bit of a shift in consumer behavior in terms of, liking brands and following influencers, really being tied to the brand of the company and its products or services versus just randomly buying different things without really keeping a close eye on branding and so forth. So if, for example, you make your subscription a 6-month subscription where you charge a customer for 6 consecutive months, and then maybe you change the product or you change the service, because at the end of the day, if you're selling content that's pre-recorded, it's very hard to keep things fresh for longer than 6 to 9 months. For example, that's about the average, I would say, that you can kind of keep renewing yourself without having customer fatigue. If you have live calls and, you engage the customer on a weekly or monthly basis, that's a little bit different. But for pre-recorded stuff or for supplements and physical products, you might want to have a limited subscription period. And then what you can do is, instead of just letting that customer go, you can have another product or service or offer them an affiliate offer to keep them in your world, to keep them engaged and offering them something else. Because logically, most customers will not willingly stay with you for 2 years. They may have forgotten a charge on their credit card. But what happens is once they realize that charge is there, they're going to go back and charge back six months, maybe more if their bank allows them to charge back more. So it really is a lose situation for you having a customer that's dormant, that's not using your product or service, actually, keep on rebilling and being charged for something that they're not using. So think about, what is the appropriate amount of time that a customer can use your product or service, and, then configure your product or service around that. Now, obviously, if you're a SaaS company, you're selling software and so forth, that's a little bit different because that's, something that people use on a regular basis. But this is mainly targeted to physical products, for example, gadgets or supplements or stuff like that, or, content-related businesses where people get pre-recorded content. So that's just something to keep in mind. And you will make a lot more money by offering a fresh product to a customer and getting them excited again about your brand, about different products and services, versus just hoping to God they never notice that charge on their credit card, and then hoping furthermore that once they cancel, they don't charge back. Now, on the technical side, a couple of quick little things, because I like to give you guys a few little tips of things that you can do quickly and implement in your cart quickly to make more money. If you are not using Visa Account Updater and MasterCard Account Updater inside your payment gateway, go in and activate it right away if you have a subscription product. What this does is it will go and update credit cards that have been expired or changed card numbers. So your subscriptions will keep on going for the customers that have changed their card details. It is a no-brainer, and it will literally add money in the bank for you right away as soon as you turn it on. Another thing that you can do, and that's really, really important in this day and age with data security, is you have to tokenize your transactions or vault your transactions. When the information that you're sending to the bank is tokenized, they see it as more secure and they're more likely to approve a subscription. So keep those things in mind. And as I mentioned earlier, just because the big guys are doing it like Adobe doesn't mean that you have to follow their practices. Use your good judgment. If you have a good product or service, rely on the good product or service and your good customer service and your good marketing to keep your customers on board instead of deceiving them and lying to them to try to keep the subscription going. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any more examples of deceiving subscription practices, please pop them down below. I would love to hear more about, what's going on in the industry, and I hope you have yourself a great day.